Okay, thank you.
The seats on this side are same price. I'm just kidding.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Oh, my daughter used to say when we would go to different things and a lot of people who don't go to temple would come, and she could say, look at how they are shoko. They don't go to temple regularly. And I was looking going, because she had learned from the senseis how to do it correctly, so she could spot it right away. But anyway, good morning. My name is Linda Nakamura, and I will be your chairperson today for this service. So February is the month where when the Buddhist Women's Association, known as BWA, members hold the memorial service to remember Lady Takeko Kujo and to honor her life as a Shin Buddhist woman. Lady Takeko Kujo was born in Kyoto in 1887 to Abbot Otani, who was at that time the 21st Monshu, and Lady Fukiko Otani. As it was usual for the times in her class, she was sheltered, so she didn't get out very much at all while she was growing up. And then although her life was a short 42 years, she worked tirelessly for projects that she felt were important. So just to highlight, one, she and her sister-in-law, Lady Kazuko Otani, organized women on a national level and later founded the BWA in 1907. She was the Kyoto office director, and the Lady Otani was the first president. And the other bullet point was she later became the BWA president and further organized the BWA. Kujo worked toward the establishment of a higher education institute for women based on Buddhist teachings, and this education institute eventually became the university, the current Kyoto Women's University. She devoted her life to help people in need, which was especially needed after the great 1923 Kanto earthquake. And then she was also a talented writer, and she used the royalties from her published book to create a fund to help build the Asoka Hospital in Tokyo. So as women and as BWA members, we are grateful for the work of Lady Kujo and all of the women, all women, and the BW members before us. So we will, I guess, open up with the Sutra chanting.
Namandavs, 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 namandavs. Koru Jippo
無量主所敬人体善念諸仏法界軍人の空語外体無明欲ぬ世尊よむ人の死死人徳無量空君広大知恵人妙光明意祖神道大仙ガンガサブ在所法華道生じ未不下段不正上位解任精進如是三昧知恵以上五世徳仏不行志願一切空空一切大安決しうぶ百千の九万無量大小修行語者供養一切死と処分不尿愚道検証不逆非尿語者諸仏世界無不影無種鮮度光明師匠変死諸国如是精進異人難量量が差分国土第一五種奇妙道場超絶国如内音二無とそがと愛民道達一切実法来生新年少女意図が国経楽安穏公文神妙税が心象本願の日力小所欲実法世尊知恵 知が信行軽量心死食毒中画行精進忍術不敬ナマンダムナマンダムナマンダムナマンダムナマンダムナマンダムがんにしくどく平等性祭道本菩提心往生安楽ナマンダプスナマンダプスナマンダプスナマンダプスナマンダプスナマンダプスナマンダプスナマンダ
Sensei Michael will now lead us with the three treasures on the next page in the green brochure.
Three treasures. Hard is it to be born into human life. Now we are living it. Difficult is it to hear the Buddha Dharma. Now we hear it. If we do not deliver ourselves in the present life, no hope is there that we shall be freed from suffering and sorrow in the ocean of birth and death. Let us reverently take refuge in the three treasures of the truth. I take refuge in Buddha. May we all together absorb into ourselves the principle of your way to enlightenment and awaken in ourselves your supreme will. I take refuge in Dharma. May we all together be submerged in the depth of the doctrine and gain wisdom as deep as the ocean. I take refuge in Sangha. May we all together become units in true accord in your life of harmony, in a spirit of universal oneness, freed from the bondage of selfishness. Even through myriad ages of kalpas, hard is it to hear such an excellent, profound, and wonderful doctrine. Now we are able to hear and receive it. Let us thoroughly understand the true meaning of the Tathagata's teaching. Namo Amida Butsu, 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 Namo Amida Butsu.
Next, we'll have Oshoka representative, Karen Hashimoto, to do Oshoka. Now we will have the Dharma message that will be given by Reverend Endo, also known as Sensei Michael.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for coming this morning to attend this memorial service for the OBWA and Lady Takeko Kujo. If you could join me in Gassho, I'd like to begin with a reading. We always seek eternal life from within an illusionary world. Our present is so pitiful because we do not know what to rely on. We can take pride in nothing because everything is so transient. All we seem to do is chase phantoms. We can do nothing but think of our sad and poor spiritual life that is clothed in nothing but falsehood. All we can see is the dark road of anguish and suffering that we must walk ceaselessly regardless of how tired we are. When we repent, however, just as we are, and when our heart changes to that of humbly placing our hands in Gassho, we will clearly see the bright torch lifted aloft to head the deluded and perplexed. Although unseen, that sacred figure unheard, but that honorable voice, in spite of this, only I know. The unceasing pledge, the imperishable light, I kneel and place my hands together without doubt. I receive this joy, Gassho of my heart. Namandabuts, 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 namandabuts. So again, good morning, and thank you for attending this morning's Kisaragi-ki memorial for Lady Takeko Kujo and the OBWA memorial service. As Linda mentioned, Lady Takeko Kujo. So we call this memorial service Kisaragi-ki because of the fact that Lady Kujo passed away in the month of February. And in Japan, traditionally each month has a kind of a poetic name. And so the month of February in Japan is known as Kisaragi. So Kisaragi-ki, ki is a memorial, Kisaragi memorial for Lady Takeko Kujo. And so as Linda mentioned, just some history about Lady Takeko Kujo. She was the youngest daughter of Otani Kosong Otani, the 21st Monshu of our Honganji tradition. She was the younger sister of Otani Kozui Otani, the 22nd Monshu, the to-be 22nd Monshu of Honganji. And she was the sister-in-law to Lady Kazuko Otani, who was the wife of Otani Kozui. Her brother, Otani Sonyu, who was a politician in Japan, a member of the House of Peers for the Japanese government. And Lady Kazuko Otani, eventually she married Baron Yoshimasa Kujo, who was the brother of her sister-in-law, Lady Kazuko Otani. So a lot of relationships here going on, but very interesting. So Lady Kujo, she was one of the ladies who helped to found the Kyoto Women's University, what is known as Kyoto Women's University today. She also helped found the Buddhist women's movement, the Fujinkai, as we know it today, or BWA, Buddhist Women's Association, together with her sister-in-law, Lady Kazuko Otani. And so this is why we gather here this morning to observe Lady Kujo's memorial service, as well as the annual OBWA, Oakland Buddhist Women's Association memorial service. In 1928, Takeko Kujo passed away from blood poisoning at the age of 42. And so, as I noted earlier, her memorial service is held annually on February 7th, and we refer to it as Kisaragi-ki. And she, after her death, she was interred in what is known as the Wadabori Mausoleum, which is in Tokyo Suginami-ku, Suginami district, and is part of our Jodo Shinshu Honganji has Tsukiji Honganji. Anybody been to Tsukiji Honganji in Tokyo? Anybody been to Tsukiji Fish Market? So right next to the original fish market, Tsukiji, Now it's, what is it, Toyosu Fish Market, but Tsukiji Fish Market right next door is this huge, huge temple. You wouldn't think it was a temple because of the structure that it is. The original Tsukiji Honganji was burned down, and so they had to rebuild it, and the architect decided to build it in sort of a kind of an Indian style. So it has like a stupa sort of structure at the very top. Beautiful, beautiful building. But Lady Kujo is interred near the Tsukiji Honganji. So Lady Kujo's life, while of course being a member of the Otani family, our tradition, the Monshu family, Otani family, when you read about her life, we think, oh, you're born into the Otani family. It's kind of a sense of royalty, high-level family in Japan. But when you read about her life, I don't think her life was all a life of leisure and pleasure. She was born in, 1886? And her life began during, I think, what we can consider a tumultuous time in Japan, Japan's history. Here she had living in a time when coming of the modern age into Japan, the end of the so-called samurai Tokugawa era, right? And this was having to begin a new life in a society that was led by much Western influence. And also there was conflicts throughout all parts of the world, just as there are today, but even then, conflicts throughout the world, and conflicts that included the participation of Japan. Namely, at that time was the Japan-Russo War, the Japan-Russian War. And while she did marry her husband, Baron Yoshimasa Kujo, when you read about her life, it would be one where she eventually was separated, not in the sense that they were divorced, but living separately, because together with her husband, they did go to England for him to continue his work and studies, but she ended up returning to Japan while he remained in England. She would eventually assist her sister-in-law, Lady Kazuko Otani, in starting what we know as the Buddhist Women's Association, the Buddhist Women's Movement. Ultimately, it was Lady Kujo's desire to help those in need. That was her, I think, call in life. And so she worked in the slums of Tokyo and assisted in the efforts to overcome that great Kanto earthquake in 1923. And through her efforts, and through her charitable efforts, she was able to help, as Linda mentioned, to establish a hospital to help those in need. Unfortunately, again, at the age of 41 in 1928, while doing this work, she contracted a blood infection and succumbed to that at the early age. So, her life is one to be cherished and to be honored because of her efforts through that short, although short life. And so we gather for the Kisaragi to remember Lady Takeko Kujo for all of her efforts that she did in her short life. But today, we also gather to remember our OBWA members, our Oakland Buddhist Women's Association members who have passed on and returned to the Pure Land before us. Each year, we print this program you have in your hand, and there is a list of the past members here. I can't help but to reflect on all of these ladies who have led our Buddhist Church of Oakland's Women's Association throughout the decades. I saw Robert yesterday, and he showed me the draft of the program, so I went through and I counted the number of names on this list. I don't know if you've counted, but close to 300 names now. Close to 300 of our predecessors have passed away. And as I went through the names, and this is even from last year, last year I realized I knew at least 180 of these ladies throughout my lifetime here growing up in the Oakland Temple. We've added another, I think, 5 or 6 names, I believe it was, since last year, so that's another almost 190 ladies who have played an important part in my life, having grown up in this temple. Many of the ladies on this list, I consider part of two very special generations here at the Buddhist Church of Oakland. And this is the Nisei generation, the first and second generation. This is not to discount our third generation and fourth generation members that we have today in our organization, of course. But when I look at the list and I recall these ladies, there's so many special memories that come back to mind. I know, even looking here in this audience today, I know Don and Claire's parents. I know Gail's parents. I know Karen Hashimoto's mother. I know Maya's mother. So many people here. Carol's mother, I know. Kathy Terusaki's mother. These people, so many memories that I'm able to enjoy. So I feel fortunate having grown up here in the Buddhist Church of Oakland because these ladies did play such an important part in my life. I did meet Steve's mom, too, while she was living up here, and he was taking care of her. So as I was thinking about their lives, especially the Issei Nisei generation, I can't help think of the life and the hardships that they had to endure throughout their lifetime. And in context, it may be different, but I don't think it was much different than the difficulties that even Lady Kujo had to experience in her lifetime during that particular era. Yeah. If we think about our Issei generation members, here they're coming from Japan to a new land, not knowing the language, having to endure discrimination, of course, the language barriers, economic hardships. In many cases, I've heard stories meeting a man that they're going to marry that looks nothing like the photo that they saw. A lot of, what do they call that? Shashin kekkon. So it's marriage by, you're just brought together through a photo. You're going to marry this person. And that gentleman submits a photo that was taken 30 years ago. And, and then, of course, the World War II years and having been interred in America's internment camps, concentration camps. This is something that my generation, many of us here in this hall today too, we didn't experience it, so we have no idea of what that feeling must have been like. 1942. Unfortunately, similar things are happening today, right, in our society, unfortunately. And so, just to put that in context, Day of Remembrance, as June mentioned, this month, February, is the time for Day of Remembrance, in which we remember our family members and those who were interred into the camps during World War II. So this past Thursday, I was invited to take part in a Day of Remembrance event at San Francisco State University. And the reason why I got invited was because my brother Donald, he's on the foundation board for San Francisco State, and San Francisco State University welcomed a new, I think she's a assistant professor of the new Japanese American history chair. And so Cassie Miura, who came from Tacoma, joined San Francisco State. And so being on the foundation board, Donald welcomed her to San Francisco State. So we got together for a dinner. And then this event, the subject of this event came up. And so she asked me to give the so-called invocation at this event. So it was last Thursday. And the event was, the main purpose of this Day of Remembrance was a spiritual return of 19 Japanese American students who were uprooted from San Francisco State in 1942. And they were rounded up and sent to camps throughout the United States, the 10 camps, and were never able to complete their education. Yeah. The event also included a memorial to this Henry Wakasa, who was shot down in cold blood at the camp in Topaz, Utah, while simply walking his dog inside the camp. Inside the camp. You know, I often tell people that don't know the history of the camp experience, but Japanese Americans were put into camp because they thought they were, of course, a threat to the United States, but also they were told, you're being put in camp for your safety. Your safety, né? But strangely enough, from the guard towers, the guns were pointing inwards, not outwards. Not outwards. So this Henry Wakasa was shot simply walking his dog one evening in the camp in Topaz. And so at that time, in order to memorialize his life, they had created this stone, huge, huge stone. It's about, what's bigger than, it was bigger than I am. But they set this stone in Topaz at his gravesite. Unfortunately, that stone was taken down without any consultation with the people in the camp by the American authorities, and was buried. And so they recently just found that stone again and brought it out, and I believe re-erected it at Topaz. And so there's what is now known as this Wakasa Spirit Stone Lantern in the Ruth Azawa Garden of Remembrance at San Francisco State. And so if you look on, it's been placed on Facebook. Well, actually I placed it on my own Instagram, Facebook, but they made a paper mache copy of that stone, and it's huge, and it lights up inside. They have a light inside. And so they've been sending this around to various Day of Remembrance events and incorporated the story of Henry Wakasa into this history. And so for the family that gathered that evening, there were 19 individuals who lit these little miniature lights, and they placed it around that main stone. It was a very touching ceremony to be able to take part of. And so that's actually, there's copies of the Nichibei Times in the back entry foyer, but because it is Day of Remembrance time right now, there's a film festival going on, and so that there was a film shown before this ceremony last Thursday at San Francisco State in a hall, but the film was called Dust, and so dust is explained in this issue back there. So please take a look, and it explains the history of that lantern. So for our OBWA memorial today, I think the family members members of the people we remember today, I'm sure that you can reflect on the relationships that you all shared, with your mothers, your aunties, your grandmothers, your friends. And in some cases, I'm sure those memories may bring about smiles, maybe tears, maybe anger. As I grow older, and like I say, having known 180, 190 of the members on this list directly, I wish I could speak now to the Issei, Nisei generation. There's so many questions I'd like to ask now, and to kind of get an idea of what sort of life they had to endure, in fact. I never really talked to my grandmother. Well, I was only 9 when my grandmother passed away, so I wasn't even thinking about camp or any of these kind of things. But we often don't hear, I don't recall ever hearing that generation really complain or express any anger of the things that happened to them. I'm sure there was anger within them, having to lose everything in their life and put into concentration camps here in the United States. At the same time, I'd like to think that our members especially, that our Nembutsu teaching must have played, I think, an important role in the support and encouragement for them, particularly during those dark times. I am reminded of Lady Kujo's poem, Seiya, which I think we're singing later at the end of the service, but this was one of the poems, as Linda mentioned. Lady Kujo, a prolific writer of poetry, stories, and one of those poems was the song, the Gatha Seiya, that we often sing here at the church. Seiya translates into O Starry Night, which likens all of the Buddhas to stars twinkling in the night star. If you know the tune, Hoshi no yozora no utsukushisa, tare ka wa shiru ya ame no no, 無数の瞳輝けば歓喜に和む我が心ガンジス川の真砂よりあまたを忘る仏たち夜昼常に守らすと菊に和める我が心 How beautiful the starry sky. Who could know the mystery of the heavens? When those countless eyes shine brilliantly, my heart is filled with joy. More numerous than the sands of the Ganges are the Buddhas. When I hear that they watch over us night and day, my heart is filled with peace. And such a beautiful sentiments that Lady Kujo was able to write. The Buddha's teachings, I think, did serve as a source of warmth and support for Lady Kujo. In spite of what life presented to her, we see in her writings a devotion to Amida's great wisdom and compassion, letting her know that she is supported, never to be abandoned. And this is the teaching of our Jodo Shinshu, basis of our Jodo Shinshu, that we are embraced, we are taken care of by Amida Buddha through the wisdom and compassion, true wisdom and compassion, never to be forsaken. You know, as Reverend Harry always mentions, we are okay just as we are. The Buddha accepts us just as we are. No? Lady Kujo makes a reference to the Buddhas more numerous than the sands of the Ganges River in India. I think the OBWA members are also among those countless Buddhas of that sand of the Ganges River. No? And I now feel that they are watching over us, watching over me. As I reflect on all of the OBWA members we remember today through this memorial service, I look at each of them as one of those stars in our evening sky. All of them are Buddhas now watching over us night and day. And when I think of each of them as a star in the sky, I am comforted. I can do nothing but put my hands together in Gassho and say, Namu Amida. There's no other word to express our gratitude. And I wonder if this is what our predecessors may have thought while looking into the evening sky while incarcerated in those 10 camps. You know, I've heard stories of those that have been in camp that nights were pitch dark because these are out in desolate areas. Windstorms, snowstorms, you know, thunderstorms, but dark nights. And I do wonder, you know, did they come out of their barrack occasionally and look up in the evening sky and think of these words of Lady Takeko Kujo? I realize, when I reflect on all of these members, OBWA members, that my life has also been touched by their lives. My life has been touched by the shining light of enlightenment, as Lady Takeko Kujo reminds us through Renyo Shonin's own life, who suffered, you know, many losses, many hardships in his life, yet he was able to find comfort in the Nembutsu teaching. And my reaction in response to this realization is the recitation of the Nembutsu Namu Amida Butsu with my hands in Gassho. Again, I like to repeat the words by Lady Kujo that I read at the beginning of my talk. And she says, we always seek eternal life from within an illusionary world. Our present is so pitiful because we do not know what to rely on. We can take pride in nothing because everything is so transient. All we seem to be doing is chasing phantoms. We can do nothing but think of our sad and poor spiritual life that is clothed in nothing but falsehood. All we can see is the dark road of anguish and suffering that we must walk endlessly, regardless of how tired we are. When we repent, however, just as we are, and when our heart changes to that of humbly placing our hands in gassho, we will clearly see the bright torch lifted aloft to lead the deluded and perplexed. We are trapped, I think, in a world of chaotic change. And when we come to realize there is nothing to rely on in this fleeting world, everything is transient, as Lady Takeko Kujo tells us. When I read Lady Takeko Kujo's words here, though, I think she is lamenting the state of those who see their karmic condition as something that dictates that they are spending their lives chasing after an illusion, walking a dark path of suffering and stretches endlessly into the distance. And I believe that I think she was in fact referring to her own life, her own state of affairs. But she realized that when we openly lament, realize the way we are, and when we humbly place our hands in gassho from the heart, we will clearly see the bright torch, or the great light of Amida Buddha's great wisdom and compassion, shining brightly for those lost and deluded seekers to gaze upon. Here again, I think she's speaking about herself. And when I read it, it is myself too. We're lost, yet we're embraced by this great wisdom and of compassion. So as we reflect on the life of Lady Takeko Kujo, and we reflect on the life of all of the past OBWA members that have supported and helped to guide this temple, I reflect with nothing but putting my hands in gassho and to say Namo Amida Butsu, to say thank you very much for their guidance, many times of laughter, many times of many funny stories. We could talk about these funny stories after the service, but so many wonderful memories that we're able to enjoy. And so, again, I thank you all very much for coming today on this occasion of Lady Takeko Kujo's memorial, Kisaragi-ki, and the OBWA memorial service. So in closing, I'd like to read the Gobunsho, letter by Renyo Shonin. Just please place your hands in gassho and listen to the words of Renyo Shonin. Namanda Butsu, 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 Namanda.上人一流のご関係の趣は信心のもって本当せられ候。そのゆえはもろもろの造業を投げ捨てて一心に御に奇妙すれば不可思議の眼力通して仏の方より往生は事情せしめたもそのくらいを一年発起入賞上始終とも釈しその上の称名念仏った如来我が往生を定めたまいしご恩法人の念仏と心べきなりあなかしこあなかしこ What is taught in the tradition of Shinran Shonin is that the entrusting heart is essential. For when we abandon various practices and take refuge in Amida with singleness of heart, our birth in the Pure Land is settled by the Buddha through the inconceivable vow power. The state we thus attain is described as, with awakening of a single thought of entrusting, we join those who are in the stage of the truly settled. Recitation of the Nembutsu thereafter should be understood to be the Nembutsu as an expression of gratitude for the Tathagata's benevolence for settling our birth in the Pure Land. Humbly and respectfully, I remain. Namandabutsu, 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 Namandabutsu. Thank you very much. Namandabutsu.
Now we'll have the opportunity to sing the Seiya that was written by Takeko Kujo, accompanied by piano. Just wanted to double check, are there any specific OBWA announcements that anyone would like to do at this time? Okay. Okay, so, oh.
So obviously I wear a number of hats. So this one is I'm wearing the hat of BCA as former president of the Buddhist Church of America. And I wanted to thank the OBWA for your generous donation to the Dharma Forward campaign. It's meant a lot. The Buddhist Church of Oakland's also donation to the Dharma Forward campaign. And it allowed us to achieve well above our target goal of $15 million. In fact, the campaign has generated $16.65 million. And so thank you for all of your donations. It really it's a testament to everyone coming together and supporting the future for BCA and the Institute of Buddhist Studies. And so Robert has actually put the Dharma Forward film, and we can watch it afterwards. It's a wonderful film that helps to celebrate Dharma Forward, to talk about the many things that it's already done, and the ability for us to thank everybody who was part of supporting the campaign. So thank you again to OBWA for your support.
Oops, sorry. Hi, good morning, everyone. Just a quick note that Sensei had mentioned about Day of Remembrance, and this is the Nichibei edition that's actually in the lobby, but I did put some on the back table there that you're welcome to take. The film festival is this weekend, in San Francisco yesterday, and San Jose today, and then it takes off and goes to the LA area for next weekend. So if you're interested, the schedules in here, but there's also a lot of interesting articles and stories in here about the internment, and also the Fred Korematsu exhibit is on display at the San Leandro Library, and this is the final week, so I would recommend going to see that too. Okay, but there's a lot of information here that you're welcome to take. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you everyone for attending the Lady Takeko Kujo and Members Memorial Service. And thank you, Reverend Michael Shojun Endo, for your Dharma message and for officiating this service. Arigatou gozaimasu. And thank you for Steve Terasaki for playing the organ. And
Piano.
oh, was it piano? I thought it was piano, but who am I to know? And then thank you for everyone for attending. So that concludes the Lady Takeko Kujo and Members Memorial Service. Thanks everybody for coming and have a good week.
I just forgot to mention that one of the key individuals that was part of why we created Dharma Forward was the late Reverend Seiya Yamaoka. And as we created the film, we wanted to both begin with seeing Reverend Yamaoka as part of this, but also in ending the film, you'll hear his final words of why this is so important for the future of Jodo Shinshu in America. So Robert's got the film up. Michael.
And so just to let you know, the Institute of Buddhist Studies, the original dorm, which is on Hay Street in Berkeley, was totally renovated, and it's completed now. And so we're going to have the grand opening this coming Friday. And the dorm has been named in memory of the late Reverend Dr. Seiya Yamaoka Memorial Dorm. So very nice, yeah.